In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about how to qualify as one of the premier buyers in a multifamily deal and when you have to fill out the buyer questionnaire.
Welcome to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you're looking to retire early with forever passive income, you're in the right place. This podcast is the go-to destination for real estate investors, both active and passive, and multifamily apartment investors, both new, intermediate, and advanced. Now, sit back, listen, learn, and accelerate your business, your life, and your investing with the Accelerated Investor Podcast.
So the buyer questionnaire, what is it? How does it work? Let me use an example. Right now, we are deep in the middle of buying a 296 unit in the greater Cleveland area. And we made the offer. There was a call for offers. They ran through the process, talked about that in other podcasts. And we were one of 13 offers on this building. Talked to the brokers and they're like, hey, you guys are definitely in one of the top groups. You're one of the most qualified buyers. You're one of the top offers. You guys obviously have a lot of horsepower, but we want you to fill out this buyer questionnaire. And we're going to give that to the seller, and the seller is going to be able to determine who they want to, quote unquote, award the deal to. So I get mildly perturbed by this. I get mildly annoyed by these buyer questionnaires. And I also get mildly annoyed because the brokers know just how qualified we are. We're so qualified that at the end of December, we closed a $14.65 million purchase on a 220 unit. We closed it in 40 days, and we were given from the lender $1 million short. They funded us $1 million short the day of closing. So I'm so annoyed by this buyer questionnaire because I know that I'm such a qualified buyer that I can literally fund $1 million short on the day of closing. So I know I'm really qualified. Okay. So the buyer questionnaire, what is it? Okay. So the buyer questionnaire is essentially a brag book where you need to step up, fill it out, and brag about how many deals you've closed, how much money you've raised, the GP partnership, the different parts of your business, the different departments in your business, and why they should award the deal to you. And essentially what the seller wants to know is how likely is it that you're going to close? Okay. The seller doesn't want to go through this whole process of running the process, right? All the marketing, all the tours, all the showings, all the LOIs, all the offers, the earnest money deposits, and then find out that the buyer that they select can't close. Okay. So there's this buyer questionnaire. It's 3 or 4 pages. We fill it out with all the stuff. Yeah, we've done 18 syndications. Yes, we own 4,000 units. Yes, we just sold off 1,300 units. So our active portfolio right now is 2,700 units. Yes, last year we sold off 1,300 units and bought 1,400 new units. Yes, we own our own construction company. Yes, we've raised $80 million of private capital. So those are all the things that I, quote unquote, brag about in the buyer questionnaire. But then I talked to Tyler, my partner, and Tyler's filling out the questionnaire for us. And I said, hey, T, listen, don't forget that in the first paragraph of the buyer questionnaire, don't forget to tell the seller that we closed a $14.65 million deal in 40 days when the lender shorted us $1 million at closing. And then we were able to get the $1 million, wire it to the title company, and still close on the last day of the calendar year, which was December 30th. Remember December 30th, I think it was a Thursday. And remember Friday was New Year's Eve. Yep, it was December 30th. And Friday was New Year's Eve, December 31st. And guess what? All the title companies and the banks, everybody was closed on the 31st. So on the 30th was closing day. And we got notified on the 29th that the bank was going to short us $1 million. So we were able to get the $1 million and get it closed. So I said, T, on the buyer questionnaire, make sure that the first thing that we say is how we bought this 220 unit for $14.65 million. We were able to close in 40 days, top to bottom, end to end. And how we were able to do that, $1 million short, and still get it funded, still close by the end of the year, because that other seller was adamant about closing by the end of the year because they wanted to lock in all their capital gains under the 2021 tax law. We all have heard that the Biden administration is, going to try to increase taxes over the next 3 years, especially on the rich. They pay their fair share. Because the rich are not already paying 50% of all the taxes, and they're already paying more than their fair share. But that's neither here nor there. So I said, look, the buyer questionnaire. So when you make an offer, this is now to all my audience, all my listeners, when you make your LOI in a competitive situation like this, and there's 13 other offers like this, how do you stand out? Okay. The first way you stand out, number one, is with your credibility packet. Okay. Your credibility kit, pictures, numbers of all the previous deals that you've closed. Who are the general partners? What's your philosophy? What markets do you focus on? And be niche, right? Remember, niche is rich. So be niche and talk about your market, the way you do deals. Okay. Secondly, so the credibility kit, number one. Number two, put up some hard earnest money, 200 grand, 300 grand, usually somewhere between 1% to 2% of the deal in hard ass earnest money. Okay. If you get the deal, it's going to go through due diligence, but you're going to risk that money because you're so confident that you're going to close. And then number three, in the buyer questionnaire, make sure you point out very specific situations where you were pressed, you were challenged, you had a roadblock, you had a stumbling block, and how did you get through it? Okay. Think of it like an interview. It's a job interview. It's a job interview to get awarded a $15 million property. Okay. Look at the buyer questionnaire as the interview, and then go ahead and brag about yourself. Talk about the challenges that you've overcome. How did you do it? How did it work? And make sure that gives you every opportunity to win the deal. Guys, it's not always about price. Certainly price is the main factor, the majority factor, but experience, overcoming roadblocks, hard earnest money, the buyer questionnaire are all super important to get awarded the deal.
You were just listening to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something new, help us build the AI community by leaving a review and 5-star rating on our iTunes podcast channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. To see passive investing opportunities, visit freelandventures.com/passive. To start your journey toward the lifestyle you've always dreamed of with multifamily apartments, apply for one-on-one coaching with Josh at www.joshcantwellcoaching.com.